Today I'm going to be talking about dreaming up new ideas, and the purpose for this is newness. So I'm going to use the goals I wrote in the beginning of this year, 2022, and like as a check-in. It's about 6 months in. I just moved to a new apartment. So after we've completed 6 months, we check in. So, and that's when we can like dream up something new. We know what doesn't work, we know what does work. And so these are what I wrote. And number 1 was non-judgmental awareness, cultivating a practice of inwardness as sourceness, finding silence, finding stillness. Then number 2 was humor, watching and immersing myself in comedy, silliness, being with kids or pets. Number 3 is being free in my movement, dancing, yoga, flowing, something every day. Number 4 was a sense of security and divinity, wholeness, and to enjoy the experience of being myself. And finally, the 5th one was to share my healing and my livelihood, to make efforts in service of one love and make right by those who approach me, or even if they can't approach me, if I'm meant to help, you know. So that's pretty much what I wrote in the beginning of the year. So it was about not getting so attached to judgment, finding the lighthearted approach in things, freeing up my body, feeling secure in myself without getting stuck to stuff, and finally being able to share my healing and earn money or a livelihood from it. So that was from the beginning of the year. Now I'm checking in. Basically today I wrote, let me dream up new ideas. I didn't write 5 goals, but I just kind of like free flowed and like seeing what could I dream up now for the next 6 months that could be in line with this, like basically fine-tuning these aspects just a little. And I recommend that you try this. And so it's that I'll adapt to the more extreme temperatures, that I'll learn to handle visual noise or disorder, that clean and neat can also start to mean lived in and comfortable, that my boundaries are healthy, but I may not express them healthily, so to learn how to do that I haven't understood some laws, and that I can better improve my conduct if I have the right teacher. And I don't mean laws criminally. I mean social, I mean relationship, I mean Torah, like truth, like religious, spiritual. Maybe religious is the wrong word, I would say ritualistic. Then being carefree enough to travel with my body as my home instead of being in a state of lack due to overly attaching safety and resources to being inside my apartment. To have an attitude of compelling love no matter who I'm interacting with, where the interaction itself is elevated to union beyond physical. Working with animals, even if I start by interacting with the city animals and the pets that I meet. And finally, to feel like I'm doing a good job financially by earning money on what I love to do, and to appreciate the skill-enhancing challenges more than the money. In other words, I'm kind of zooming in on some of these main goals after 6 months. I probably have about 2 pieces for each, because I had 5, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And some of them are kind of like 2, right? Like lived in and comfy, you know, animals, a good job financially, and appreciating the challenges. So, you know, it's about 10, about 2 or 3 for each one. And that's a good thing. If you wrote down your goals of the new year, try to go a little deeper into them. And then I will speak about why this became possible for me. And it's the idea of attachment, secure attachment, because I've mentioned in here a couple times about feeling secure in my body, feeling secure in my job enough to like earn money from what I love, that what I love is good enough. So I'm going to show you a diagram, but I'm not going to really need you to memorize anything on here. I'm just going to say that this comes from Jan Winhall, and she's excellent. And this is the idea of felt shift, a felt sense. There's felt shift and addictive shift. So when we feel fixated or freeze, just going into it, it's a mixed state. It's the sympathetic nervous system and the dorsal vagus. The dorsal vagus nervous system is like, goes back, it goes to the back, kind of, and it's like, so the nervous system pulls back in itself, and we become immobilized. And if we go into that without actually acting out what we need to do, we collapse. And this goes into just the dorsal vagus, which is called the parasympathetic nervous system. I mentioned that in the fixate free side, this causes addiction. It's called the addictive shift. So we go for self-harm and process skipping. We just try to like squash everything in, but that hurts. We try to repress, and we may even, now we can either let it out or shove it down, but we skip the process of learning the information. So these blended states. So if we move into just fold collapse, we become numb, dissociative, and our arousal goes so slow that we barely are moving. And this is an insecure state. Another insecure state that's not a blended nervous system is when the sympathetic nervous system is hyper aroused, like someone like on drugs or coffee, you can imagine, but your nervous system does that when you're stressed. You feel flooded, you feel activated, you can't stop talking, can't stop moving, can't stop doing kind of every sound, heart rate, like we all know what that kind of feels like. It's called fight or flight. These are the insecure, and we go into fight or flight, we go into fold collapse when we're in fixate freeze. And this is a trauma. This is what trauma is. Now, from the state of fixate freeze, or from that state where we're suddenly like, I don't like this, I'm embarrassed, it's too much, I'm overwhelmed, it's extreme, I feel incapable, it's collapsing, like you really go into that desperate feeling for a second, you get a chance to work through what you need to, and if you do, you move into a nervous system state called flow. Flow is when you have intimacy, like, oh, that was so hard, I love you, Shayna. Meditation, right? That's when we can like let the power struggle go. Awe, it's like you're hiking up the hill and it's so hard, but then you get to the top and you're like, this is amazing. But you still have a little bit of that energy, a little bit of that energy, and it shifts into the front and the back. You could engage with life and you can also pull back, but it isn't that sense of pulling back, or the other kind, which is push forward. And then we describe it as like stillness, and it's both sides of the parasympathetic nervous system of the vagus nerve. Another blended state you could go to if you actually work through the process is where you move to the front and you're like, I'm gonna have fun, I don't care what anyone says, I've been ready, I'm okay, and it's enjoy, it's create, it's impassioned, it's play, it's stimulated, and it's fun, it's fired up. And that's kind of like this blended nervous system, which helps us to be resilient. It's like we have a little bit of that pull back, like let the other person have a turn too, but also we like, so like in the flow state, we have a little bit of that pull back, like I don't need everything to be exactly my way, it's going to be okay. But also like, I can interact, this is fun, I'm focused, I'm not like running away from the situation. And it feels like I'm fully present. There's a part of me that's watching and a part of me that's involved. And the other one I just mentioned, fun and fired up, this would be like the sympathetic nervous system. There's still some of that energy actually in the system. Like I could do things, like I'm jumping, I'm dancing, I have fun, and like, and at the same time, there's that forward shift of like, I can interact, like I'm curious, I'm open, I'm not retreating into myself, and I'm also not like looking to hurt. I'm just like present with the situation and like not necessarily pulling back. I'm fully learning about myself as I'm in the situation. And finally, I'm going to move into a different area where, remember that fight or flight or freeze, the fold collapse. The other option of sort of like that idea of how do we face the situation where we don't go into that addictive shift and is where we have that felt shift. So how do we move from this fold collapse into what we're looking for, which is called flock? In other words, being part of a group. You don't need to be with the group all the time, but you have people to help you. You're part of a family, you're part of a community, you're part of friendships. There's health, growth, restoration, carrying forward. You do have challenges, you have hard times, but you can make it through. That's mostly the ventral vagus parasympathetic. That's the part that keeps moving forward. It's going to heal, it's going to let everything go, it stays light. And that's social engagement. So we have the safety aspect of flow, fun, and flock. Flock is like, I'm okay being part of everyone. I ask for help, I'll cry, everything's okay. Flow is like, part of me's watching, and a part of me is also engaged. And then fun, fired up is like, I'm engaged and I have good energy, up energy, like morning, desirable energy. And then how do we move from this fight or flight where it's like, I'm overwhelmed, it's too much. Are you a threat? Or I'm collapsed, it's too much, I can't handle it. How do we move out of addiction from that and instead move into these other more desirable states, which are secure attachment? We're secure, we're in ourself. And yes, it's like chaos or distraction, but we keep coming back to the self, versus those are insecure, to be unable to handle a situation, it doesn't feel secure, or to collapse under the pressure. So we get through that by doing something what Jan Winhall calls felt sense. We go to a thought, a feeling, a memory, or a physical sensation. We ride the physical sensation till it goes. I feel, if you do yoga, you feel the intensity, the sensation, and then you let it go as it continues to resolve, right? It relaxes. Or the memory, it's like, it's horrible. Last time I collapsed and then I couldn't handle it and everything fell apart, and that's what, then you sort of go to that memory. You say, last time, I'm going to follow this memory through. I collapsed, and then I was okay, and then I did other good things, and then, look, I'm here now, and I have another challenge. And there's this description of you have to follow it through. Don't get stuck. Don't fight the feeling. Don't collapse under the feeling. Be with the feeling. That's how we stay healthy. That's how we grow. That's how we enjoy, create, find intimacy and awe. So I hope this was helpful, and I wish for you to have a sense of secure attachment and sustained growth, and zooming in on areas that we call them micronutrients of the self, because you got to go into these little places where we want to get lighthearted, and we have to do some of this work, and it's like pruning and nutrients for the little sprouts that are just starting to grow and break through after this 6 months, let's say, of the new year. Thank you. Be well.